Hello and welcome to class. This is GPY101 Sustainability and Place. And in this first lecture, I will talk about what is sustainability, how we can define it, we can discuss the differences between weak and strong sustainability, sustainability indicators, and then from there we will go into the discussion of your term projects. The world that we know today is extremely unsustainable. And unfortunately, many trends of unsustainable living are only about to continue unless we urgently think about what we do, pause, and develop very different policies and adopt very different practices and technologies that help us to live in harmony with our environment. In many parts of the world, such as here in the United States or in Australia, or in many countries of the European Union or in Japan, we live as if we have many planets. In fact, in the United States, we are consuming the amount of energy and other natural resources as if we have 5 planets Earth, and the same applies to the amount of waste we are producing. We are running out of time and we are running out of space. This is also happening at the expense of living conditions and quality of life in many other parts of the world where people live with significantly less and have significantly lower share of these natural resources. So we need to think how we can develop more sustainable ways of coexisting with each other and especially coexisting with our planet. There is no doubt that Homo sapiens as a species is dominating today the planet, but how long we can continue dominating it without damaging ourselves? It's important to be aware of several global trends that are happening simultaneously. One of them is the population growth. Human population has never been so large as it is now. In fact, we are quickly approaching 8 billion people, and this is a lot. As the population of the world continues to increase, we also see another trend, the trend of growing inequality. And this includes both the spatial distribution of wealth around the world and also the growing inequality among the nations and among the citizens within the nations. This map on the right side of the screen shows you the distribution of the GDP per capita, clearly showing that the share of different countries in the global economy and the distribution of wealth are extremely uneven. And this has a lot to do with our unsustainable way of living today. At the same time, we also see growing inequalities, such as the share of income earned by top 1% of the population here in the United States and in many other parts of the world. The third global trend that is happening in our lifetime is the trend of urbanization. It's for the first time in the history of human civilization, we have today more urban population than rural population. And of course, cities are the place where we have significantly higher density of the population. We also have significantly higher pressure on the environment due to concentration of and density of infrastructure, industry, waste, transportation, carbon emissions, and so on and so forth. And in our lifetime, we would see continuous increase of urban population and the decline of rural areas. And this is going to lead to very significant shifts in the way how our population today is interacting with natural environment. The fourth major trend that we're experiencing is, of course, climate change. And climate change is directly related also to other trends such as population growth, inequality, and urbanization. As we are continuing to primarily rely on fossil fuels, we are producing a huge number of man-made greenhouse emissions, and these emissions are contributing to anthropogenic global warming. Today, the distribution of carbon footprint is also extremely uneven around the world. You'll see that The number one producer of greenhouse gas emissions today is China, followed by the United States, followed by countries of the European Union, and then a number of other nations. If we look at this pattern per capita, the picture would be different. For example, per capita emissions here in the United States or in Australia or in Russia are significantly higher than per capita emissions in China or in India, because the populations of those countries are significantly larger. Climate crisis is really the major problem of our time. It directly affects all aspects of human society: health, life expectancy, food security, water security, safety, migration, jobs. So we really cannot address our economic and health and social issues unless we take a very honest look at what is causing climate change and start solving this problem as soon as possible, especially because we probably have only about 15 to 20 years or less to address this problem if we want to continue enjoying the quality of life that we have right now on this planet. So where greenhouse gas emissions come in, we know where they're coming from transportation, from burning fossil fuels for energy production, for industry, for some of them, such as methane, are coming from our agricultural practices. To find solutions, we need to use the technology, we need to adopt better environmental policies that would encourage use of those already existing technologies that would help us to achieve the drawdown moment. The drawdown means that the sequestration of carbon taken away from the atmosphere is actually higher than the amount of emissions produced by all anthropogenic emissions. And this is possible. And this is why I have adopted the book, the Project Drawdown, as the textbook for our class, that allows us to explore in depth some of those processes that really make sustainable living possible and that help us to see what are the solutions for climate change. Solving the problem of climate change requires dramatic reduction of our carbon footprint and cutting greenhouse gas emissions as soon as possible by going away from the use of fossil fuels and transiting to renewable energy. The leading global economies such as the United States, Canada, East Asian economies, countries of the European Union need to use all possible technology in order to reduce their carbon footprints that are the highest in the world today. I would use here two definitions of sustainability. One is by Brundtland Commission that defines sustainable development as the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The second definition, and this is really my favorite, is the principle of the seventh generation by the Iroquois nation. In every deliberation, we must consider the impact on the seventh generation. This is really what it means to live sustainably, thinking about what are the impacts of our actions on the seventh generation. In the scholarly literature, sustainability is often approached in terms of its three dimensions: society, economy, and environment. They are known sometimes as 3 Ps, such as planet, people, and profit, or 3 Es, environment, equity, economy. So this triple bottom line diagram of sustainability is a model that quite elegantly brings together economic, environmental, and social priorities, suggesting that sustainable development or sustainability needs to satisfy all these three areas of interfaces, for example, between the social and environmental aspects of sustainability, focusing on environmental justice, or satisfying the interface between environmental and economic aspects of sustainability, focusing on energy efficiency and responsible use of natural resources, and finally also satisfying the interface between economic and social priorities, focusing on business ethics, workers' rights, and fair trade. Despite its seeming elegance and simplicity, the triple bottom line approach to defining sustainability is quite problematic. In fact, it has been widely criticized and it's known as the model of weak sustainability because it assumes that there's really equal trade-off between the economic profit, human society, and the environment. And when we are facing very urgent environmental and social problems, they cannot be traded against the economic priorities. So this is a weak model of sustainability because it is based on fundamental assumption that economic growth is equal in its importance to the society and it's equal in its importance to the environment. And so the entire model of sustainable development is based on the assumption of compromises between economic, environmental, and social priorities. We know that this is obviously not true, and by no means the economy and considerations of economic profit are not equal to consideration of our environment or our societal priorities. So an alternative model that has been suggested as a strong sustainability model would put our economy as a smaller circle inside of the society and that put this circle of the society inside of the environment to emphasize that there is no economy without the society and there is no society without the environment. So the strong model of sustainability really emphasizes the primary importance of environmental sustainability, which is an important prerequisite for societal sustainability. We cannot have a healthy society without healthy environment, and then this is in turn a prerequisite for sustainable economy because again it's impossible to have economic development without healthy society and without reliance on the environment. How we can assess sustainability, how we can measure it, how we can compare sustainability of different practices or in different places. So it's useful to have some framework of indicators of sustainability, and this is what we see here, the conceptual framework provided by the United Nations Commissions for Sustainable Development, suggesting that there are four major dimensions of sustainability, and each of these dimensions has its own themes. For example, social dimension includes themes of equity, health, education, housing, security, population. The environmental dimension includes such themes as atmosphere, land, ocean, seas and coasts, freshwater resources and biodiversity. And then economic dimension includes economic structures, consumption and production patterns. And finally, institutional dimension includes institutional themes such as policies and frameworks and institutional capacity. So then within each of these themes, there are sub-themes. For example, we can address equity from the perspective of poverty, economic equity. We can address it from the perspective of gender equity. We can examine health from the perspective of nutrition, from the perspective of mortality, sanitation, quality of drinking water, food security, and so on and so forth. And so we can quantify each of those dimensions and each of these themes, and that helps us to understand what is the level of sustainability in different places associated with different measures and different practices. This helps really to enact sustainable policies based on those considerations. So in your project, you will be looking at specific solutions within specific areas, and they can be related to any of those themes. You can focus specifically on environmental sustainability or social sustainability or economic sustainability, and of course I always encourage you to look into interfaces among all these different themes. So let's now talk about your term project. This is of course the most important assignment in this class, and this is an opportunity to work in depth on one of those themes of your interest in relationship with a particular location. Your first task this week is to select a theme of your interest. You need to decide if you want to work on aspects of sustainability in energy or food or water or buildings or transportation. And of course, the drawdown book would be very useful, as well as the website, but I also encourage you to explore, to think on your own, to think about your experience of what you are learning in other classes, to conduct your research on internet, and narrow down your idea even much further. For example, you could focus just on wind energy or just on solar energy, or just on geothermal, or perhaps you might be interested in sustainable buildings or electric cars or urban food systems, sustainable urban food systems, or any other topic that is related to sustainability. As you are researching these solutions and these approaches further, I want you to think about examples where it is already implemented. And these examples can be anywhere in the world. We are looking at those locations that are really champions, pioneering these good sustainable practices in different parts of the world that can be done at the scale of the neighborhood or a city or a town or a region, part of the country. So I would encourage you to keep it small, the size of the city, the scale of the city, or even the part of the city is really working the best for this project. And an example could be a closed loop water treatment system in El Paso, Texas, or zero waste approach in San Francisco or in Ljubljana, or an area powered by wind energy, such as parts of Denmark, or we see a number of cities in the United States that are already going fully solar or fully wind. Choose one of the cities or one of these areas, so specific projects that are demonstrating a solution of your interest, and then you would develop a project, that you would develop the poster. So every week I am asking you to log your thoughts, your progress, your bibliography, any questions, any concerns, but just any ideas related to your project would need to be logged on in your weekly journal. And this is also the way how you can communicate and discuss your project with me. I also encourage you, of course, to come to the office hours or come to these Zoom meetings and talk with me about your projects. And then as you are researching this project more and more in depth, you will create a poster, and then you would present it in class at the end of the semester. So a number of possibilities is really unlimited. You will find some examples in the drawdown. You will find some examples that I posted for you on the Blackboard. Here is an example of Alice Spring, a solar city in Australia. And so by the end of the semester, you would develop a poster, you would upload it on the Blackboard, and the last week of the semester, we are having a virtual poster session visiting all each other's case studies. The guidelines, the template, and the Dropbox, they're all available on the Blackboard, and please let me know if you have any questions.